So I want to go a little bit more in depth about what I consider is sports acupuncture. Last time we talked about the three phases of performance, which is basically injury recovery, training recovery, and then performance. So let's go a little bit more into this recovery piece. And we're going to do that by talking about what are they recovering from. So let's talk about the types of training there are. So in general, we can kind of think about it this way. There's basically just conditioning, and that is basically what you would think of: cardio and power. And so with cardio, with acupuncture, we're definitely thinking more of the kidneys, the adrenals, the heart, and the lung. With power, we're definitely thinking more muscle, so the spleen and the stomach, and the liver and the gallbladder. That would be more the energy sources, the glucose storage and all that sort of stuff. So we got wood and earth, and then we got metal and fire and water. So conditioning, again, yeah, it's pretty simple, pretty basic. And then the next is we have coordination. And coordination training kind of goes into general movement and then sports-specific movement. So general coordination is basically, can a kid walk correctly? Can they run correctly? Can they squat correctly? Can they do movements overhead correctly? It's basically general motion, and this is basically where you need to focus most of your training for younger kids. So oftentimes quickly we jump into sports-specific motion and we don't build a general body mechanics. And that's where you find these kids young who look coordinated and graceful, and people will say, oh, they're just naturally talented, and then you have the awkward kids that can't seem to move correctly. It's basically because they haven't been taught general, proper body mechanics and motion. Some kids have learned it by watching their parents, and some haven't. So it's definitely teachable, and you need to build a strong base before you start to build into sports-specific motion. This all goes under coordination, but conditioning would be, all right, let's just have you do a bunch of squats or run real far. But coordination training would be like, all right, let's have you run correctly, or let's have you run a pattern or a cutting pattern. So that's more of coordination training. And then lastly, there is decision-making training. And this often gets lumped into kind of speed training. People think that speed is based off of coordination movement, and it is at some level, but mostly it's limited by how quickly you can interpret your surroundings and judge what other people are doing. So a lot of the agility drills that people think build speed don't. They may condition and coordinate quick twitch motions, but you're not really going to get any faster, and the research shows that. But what you can do is if you build training that mimics real life scenarios, and you teach kids to interpret external stimulus quicker. Like if a person raises their hand, they're going to cut this direction. If they're going, doing a waist twist, they're going to run this direction. If you can increase their decision making, they're able to move quickly and respond effectively to motion. And so if you think about that, then we're looking into kind of more mental. And these all tax things differently. With conditioning, you're taxing your muscles, and you're kind of going mindless, and you're just working really hard. With the coordination, you can tax your muscle memory, your muscle nervous system, and with the decision making, you're definitely taxing more of your mind. So that's what the athletes will be recovering from, depending on what they're training on. Off season can be definitely more conditioning. They could be learning specific new skills, and that would, with like golf, and that would tax their coordination. Or they could be learning new strategies or drilling responses, and that would definitely tax more of their mind. So if you look at acupuncture and how we deal with all this, acupuncture is kind of the same way. We can treat the muscles, we can treat the nerves, And we can treat the spirit or the mind. So let's look at different acupuncture techniques that can treat this. With muscles, again, we're thinking trigger points. We're thinking motor points. With nervous system, we start to get into acupuncture that deals more with the nerves. So that would be a little bit more distal. That might be some press tacks for proprioceptive training. That could be some, let's see, Shi Nao Pai Chow, which is a specific technique that works on training nerves. And then with the mind, then we start, I don't really know much about the spirit, but yeah, definitely we're going more 5-element, classical, that sort of stuff. This spirit areas, this is definitely an area that I need to study more, but so that's kind of how I think about focusing on recovery. Again, trying to figure out what are they recovering from.